Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ashley C. Ford, and I'm here to talk with you about Together Rising, and more importantly, an organization that we have partnered with in a fundraiser, Out Memphis. So, Together Rising is an innovative grant making nonprofit founded by best-selling author Glennon Doyle. Together Rising works with contributors and supporters from all walks of life to fulfill its mission to transform collective heartbreak into effective action by investing in some of the most urgent needs in our country and around the world. I joined the board in 2021 because I believe in this organization's ability to get the right resources into the right hands at the right time. And I wanted to take part in that work along with my fellow board members. So today we're going to be talking about Out Memphis. That's the fundraiser that we're going to be holding. I will have more information about that fundraiser at the end. I can tell you right now that the deadline for that fundraiser is going to be June 30th. And we are so hoping that you're going to come in and help us reach the big goals that we have, not just for Together Rising, but for organizations like Out Memphis across the country. So, from its inception, Together Rising has been a supporter of the LGBTQIA plus community, working in partnership with organizations across the country to provide access to gender affirming care, mental health supports, and all kinds of other resources. We're watching increasing attacks on LGBTQ rights and freedoms as state after state, including mine, right here in Indiana. In the face of this mounting pressure, I am proud to introduce my friend Molly Quinn and the incredible work that her organization, Out Memphis, is leading for the LGBTQ plus community in the Mid-South. So, as you've heard from my fellow board members, Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach, Together Rising is kicking off a fundraiser to support Out Memphis as Tennessee moves ever closer to a ban on gender affirming care on July 1st. If upheld, this ban would make it impossible for members of the LGBTQIA plus community under 18 to get the gender affirming and other forms of care and support that they need. Folks in Tennessee are facing this looming date in addition to a series of other discriminatory measures. That's why Out Memphis's work is so important, providing comprehensive programming and services to members of the LGBTQIA plus in a landscape that has become increasingly restrictive, as we know. So to help us learn more about this issue, I am delighted, absolutely stoked to introduce Molly Quinn. Molly serves as executive director of Out Memphis, the LGBTQ plus community center for the Mid-South. Molly grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and returned home after working in the nonprofit sector with authors and writers in New York City for 9 years, which is how we met. Then she put on the first and only Memphis Literary Arts Festival in 2018, going on to join Out Memphis as their first woman identified leader in its 34-year history. Molly, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much, Ashley. It's such a pleasure and so important for this conversation to happen.
I agree. Now's the time to have it. Well, a few years ago was the time to have it, but we're having it now. So let's go.
Fair enough.
Can you tell me about some of the history or background of Out Memphis? These issues are really urgent. We're talking about them right now, but this is not a new problem. And it's something that Out Memphis has been addressing for years, as I understand.
Yeah, that's right. Our organization is really interesting. It's a really beautiful story. We got started in 1989. And at the time, our organization was really the only LGBTQ plus institution outside of nightlife. And in the almost 35 years of our history, the organization has transformed with the city, with the region, and with the country. We've grown so much in that time, as has our community and other providers, but we have evolved in many ways. Our organization has had a slew of different homes, different names, different people. We've kind of adapted and grown as movements do and have to. Kind of over the last 10 years in particular, our primary focus has been around providing social services to the community. We have also helped so many other grassroots organizations and leaders and individuals create a better culture and a better network for LGBTQ people across the South. Um,
Hmm.
right. So as so much has happened this year in our state of Tennessee, we're proud to be, but we also wish that we weren't. We're the oldest and the largest LGBTQ organization anywhere in Tennessee. And then
Hmm.
that sort of same goes for Arkansas and Mississippi, which are our neighbors. And we do so much work to kind of build up that network and to create a beacon and
Hmm.
visibility for queer people in the South, which means so much to me with my personal connection to our city and my own story. So that's
It's your
kind of how
home.
it is. It is my home. Yeah. So today we provide this range of social services that includes housing support for homeless LGBTQ young adults. We have HIV prevention and sexual health education programs. We have a series of case management, care navigation, mental health referrals, support groups, and on, dozens of services to particularly focus on LGBTQ plus people in the South who don't have access
Right.
to basic rights and basic needs, which of course is
Hmm.
escalating all the time.
Why are those services so necessary at this moment? Can you give me an idea of the context of what Out Memphis urgently is trying to address in the community right now, especially as it concerns anti-LGBTQ legislation?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even put into words what the last 6 months have felt like in our community. It's been transformative. The landscape has completely changed overnight.
Wow.
As legislation has come forward and there's more and more hate that people are open about and strategic about with the community. It has had such a big impact on the ground, even small things like local businesses that have supported us for years are
Hmm.
pulling back from collaborating with our organization, or like our Pride Festival, which is put on by another organization here in Memphis, had many corporate sponsors that pulled away this year, not necessarily out of lack of, emotional or moral support for the issues, but honestly out of concern for safety. We've had a lot of issues with folks showing up. We've had protesters, we've had vandalism, and none of that, despite the many conservative and extremist pockets of this region, none of that was true until the last 6 months. It's changed our community. I can't. It's shocked me, honestly. I knew it was coming, but not to this degree at all. So the thing that Out Memphis is really focusing on this summer is this huge looming deadline of June 30th, which is when our ban on gender affirming care for minors goes into effect. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, even though the law goes into effect on June 30th, we already have a lot of providers of gender affirming care who have either stopped services or slowed down their services. And even
Wow.
before this was true, there weren't a lot of providers for gender affirming care of any age in our part of the country. And so we started to really look at ways in which we can build that network to make the world a little bit smaller for folks who now, in order to get whether it's hormones or just a referral to a therapist or a place to hang out, where they can get that maybe through travel or under our umbrella in ways that are new and different. And that's really what we've been focusing on this spring.
Wow. So that, first of all, I'm so sorry to hear that
Yeah.
because, we see it in the news. We, see how it might affect a few people in our communities. But when you are a person who is deeply engaged with the queer community, that this is your world. This is what's going on. Like it's
Yeah.
an attack that you feel in a very real and tangible way. And this isn't just happening in Tennessee. This is part of a larger movement to curtail bodily autonomy in conservative states across the country, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, the numbers of legislation is like a good indicator of how escalated this has all been.
Mhm.
So, in the last couple of years, on average, there were about 150, which was a big number,
Mhm.
anti-LGBTQ bills proposed each year nationwide in general assemblies and state houses. And this year, there were almost 500. So that is just such, like, if you really think about that, of how that number is so crazy. And those are all kind, right? Those laws are a huge range. So we have a law that is seemingly small, but essentially makes it impossible for folks to change their gender marker on their driver's license in Tennessee. We have these book bans in other states, including Tennessee. We have attacks on drag performances, which is started in Tennessee this year as well. Bathroom
Mhm.
bills, school pronoun bills, this entire attack. And of course, that's happening in the wake of this like incredible Supreme Court decision, which was, we're almost at the 1 year anniversary of Dobbs. And I think that what we're seeing is this attack on bodily autonomy that is going to and is already impacting all Americans. I mean, we
Right.
have state legislators getting in between a child and their pediatrician. I can't think of anything so scary, so sinister.
Right. I mean, it is among the most sinister things that I feel like I've had to witness over the course of my very short 36 years on this planet.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's wild, and it's also, you know, it can be really obviously heartbreaking to watch this happen. And not just heartbreaking, you can feel very physically unsafe. You can be very physically unsafe because of these issues, but your work is coming up with solutions. It's coming up with ways to fill the gaps and help people temper some of the oppression that they are living under with laws like these. One of the things that you guys do is a pipeline of support that Out Memphis provides between Tennessee and Illinois. Now, as a Hoosier, born and
Mhm.
bred, also come back to my home state. Um, it's really lovely to hear that right next door in
Yeah.
Illinois, there are people receiving the care that they deserve and getting what they need from a place that supports their human right to make those decisions. Can you talk to me a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. Illinois is such an important state right now.
Yes,
It's
I
true
agree.
for queer folks living in Indiana, right? Like it's
Mhm.
such an important state. If you look at the political map, if you look at the risk map for hate threats, if you look at the risk map for legislation, Illinois is this little blue beacon in the middle of the red, and there's also more accessibility. So one of the reasons that Illinois has become, in addition to the rights that folks have there, one of the reasons that Memphians have started seeking services and support in Illinois is that we've got an Amtrak that goes, like, there is like a lot of access. But essentially, as the years started to unfold, we looked at and started to really understand what all of our neighbors were going through. So over the past couple of years, OUTMemphis has referred trans youth to clinics here in Memphis, but also some in Louisiana, some in Kentucky, some in Georgia, and other states and other cities. And that network started to collapse this year. We
Mm.
were, we were making referrals to an exceptional pediatric clinic in Kentucky, like up until the night before they had a terrible law come in as a total surprise. So what we
Wow.
really saw is this, the network of states that either have gender affirming care bans or have really, really limited access to gender affirming care. Most of them border each other, right? So we're not just talking about my state, we're also talking about a plane ride or like a 4-day drive, which takes money, it takes time, it takes parents taking time off work, interrupting the school year, excuse me. And that's
Mhm.
devastating to a young person who's already so, so, so traumatized by watching their personal life in the headlines every single day. So
Yeah.
a couple of months ago, we started having a lot of conversations and have spent the last 4 months traveling back and forth to sort of build our network with our providers and community members. And some of those folks are nonprofits, they're individuals in Illinois to show and to build personal connections so that we can refer people in the South to the kinds of medical services or social services that they might need. There's this really amazing town called Carbondale, Illinois. Snaps for
Yeah.
Carbondale. It's like
Yeah.
Carbondale is has become a haven. So after the Dobbs decision, and we've taken a lot of our model for supporting people from the abortion access networks that have propped up all over the country. But after the Dobbs decision, a series of uh, abortion providers opened in Carbondale, including one that has its headquarters in Memphis, which kind of sparked this first conversation. And now there soon will be, and there is already, and soon will be multiple providers in Carbondale, which provide gender affirming care to minors. There's an amazing community center called Rainbow Cafe. So please look them up too. They're an incredible organization. And we have been, building these connections. So Carbondale is special because it's in Southern Illinois. It's 3 hour drive door to door from Memphis, 3 hours from Nashville, a little bit more from Arkansas and Mississippi. We've also been building a lot of partnerships with providers in Chicago, which is like a little bit further in terms of travel, but there's a lot of access to gender affirming care there. So our goal this whole spring has been, how can we make this country smaller? How can we make these communities smaller so that traveling to get your care, traveling to talk to a doctor that is not only legally allowed to talk to you, but is informed and compassionate, is something that isn't so scary and isn't so burdensome. So there's a lot of great programs behind that, a lot of services. We navigate a lot of young people all year long towards all the kinds of services that they need. So we've been building relationships across Illinois in both Carbondale and Chicago and a few other places to make that pipeline exist, which is so important right now.
You keep saying the word and I keep hearing it over and over of like, connections, making these connections,
Yeah.
building these networks. Um, and that just makes me think about the fact that this is not the kind of work that you can do without being connected to your community and being connected and engaged with the people in your community, which means that you are talking with, helping, seeing, just living among people for whom this is a real everyday fear or a real everyday obstacle to them being able to live their life to the fullest. What has it been like for you over the last 6 months to watch that happen in the lives of the people around you?
Mm, that's a really good question. um, it's been really, really sad, really traumatizing for so many individuals to watch a network that was already fragile get so splintered and so damaged by politics. As you said at the beginning of this conversation, the access to social services and affirming information and people was not good in our region before this particular political year, right? So when I came back to Memphis a couple of years ago and decided to take this job and to serve my community in this particular way, part of the reason that I did that is that so much had changed in Memphis since I was a teenager, and so much had changed in the South. I wasn't out until I was in my 20s in New York with you, and I wasn't able to find a community where I could live authentically or feel safe when I was a young person. And I was so passionate about doing that leadership for our community because we had had so many advancements. And I saw this community, not just in Memphis, but across the South, changing. And so
Mhm.
I think that watching us go backwards is particularly heartbreaking. Um, and I've been, trying to figure out how to keep our heads up. We have each other, which is really important. You talked about those personal connections. So Out Memphis's program for teens, for folks under 18, is
Mhm.
filled with 90 youth, a little over 90, who are between the ages of 12 and 17, who are trans and gender nonconforming, and they are they're the most interesting and compelling and informed and compassionate people I've ever met. They know so much about the world. They're so articulate, and they're so aware of what's happening. They're so eager to advocate. They
Mhm.
understand their place in this story, and they want to do it well for themselves, for each other. They're incredible. They're also really struggling. They're going through
Yeah.
so much. We have so many youth in our program who have chosen homeschooling because of the hostile environment in schools right now.
Right.
Um, yeah. We had a student get suspended for wearing like one of the Target like Pride t-shirts, just like the basic things like that you think I don't know. It's just so low stakes in this fight. But there's a really difficult culture. And I always try to lift up in these moments that queer youth right now are also the same youth that just lived through a pandemic in middle school or
Right.
high school, right? So we're already looking at negative health outcomes in general. We're looking at social isolation. We're looking at mental health barriers. We're looking at academic barriers. This is that same group of young people, right? If you're 16 now, your entire teenage years have gone through this pandemic and then through this political environment. So that combination, I mean, I want to lift up their optimism and their fearlessness and their strength and their solidarity. But the truth is that I worry for them. I really, really
Right.
do. I worry that they are going into adulthood with so much trauma, so much stigmatization, so much grief that will carry
Mhm.
with them for a long time. We've had so our youth program does many things, but meets every Saturday at our community
Yeah.
center to hang out. Um, and it's so interesting. Like on any given day, I'm there, every couple of weeks. On any given
Mhm.
day, they're either making cupcakes or talking about a video game or joking around about something that only a 13-year-old would think is funny, but is totally insane. Or they're speaking more eloquently and passionately and informed about legislation and their rights and the future of this country. It's so interesting. It's heartbreaking. I wish they could just make cupcakes and be stupid,
Right.
which is what you're supposed to do. But I think that we are looking towards a time when this generation of teenagers becomes adults. They are struggling. They will struggle. I think that we'll see,
Mhm.
more negative mental health outcomes. We'll see difficulties with education and career and growing up. And their parents are worried for them. Their parents are deeply, deeply
Of
worried for them.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. Of course. And like this is happening all over the country again.
All
Like
over the
this
country.
is this is not we are talking specifically about Memphis because Memphis is under a very specific kind of attack. Tennessee is under a very specific kind of attack, but there are forms of this attack happening all across the country right now. Still, I want to highlight Memphis. I want to
Yeah,
talk about the fact that it's a vital city for this kind of work. It's a blue city. Can you
that's right.
talk to us a little bit about why Memphis is the right place to take this fight on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So people from across what we call the Mid-South, which is, kind of Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Not the Southwest, not the Southeast, but everybody in the middle. Memphis is the place to go, or has been the place to go. And whether that's for college or to find a job or to get access to reproductive health care, to get access to LGBTQ community, to get access to progressive politics. We've seen all of many of the political fights that have happened in Tennessee this year, some related to LGBTQ issues and some not. A lot of our progressive leaders, both from the political side and the organization side, come out of Memphis. But even historically, we've been kind of a pipeline to the South. We're the kind of the last big metro area before the Delta, before the Deep South. So we take that responsibility seriously. Just last week, my staff was in Mableville and Little Rock, Arkansas, meeting with the grassroots organizers and community centers and homeless shelters in Arkansas to ensure that folks in rural Arkansas know about and can come to Memphis for services with a friendly face and know who we are and that we are there. And that's always been true for the South. And now that this is happening, the fact that Tennessee is caught in so many of these legislative fights. So Tennessee has had more anti-LGBTQ bills than any other state in the country since 2015. So over that entire stretch of time. And so to lose access to services in Memphis cuts off an incredible part of the South. So, my staff, for example, are from Florida, Georgia, Arkansas, Mississippi, a lot of rural areas, suburban areas that come to Memphis as a place to have a great and beautiful life. And because of the legislative umbrellas that we're under, it's so important for Memphis to continue to fight back.
I agree. And I'm hoping that everybody watching is willing to join us in that fight. I want to underscore that this is an urgent need.
That's right.
Our brothers and sisters need us urgently. Our friends and family need us urgently. Our communities of care need us urgently. We need to be giving if we can, when we can, to make sure that all of us get the same access to human rights, the same access to care, and the same access to the resources that we deserve. So OUTMemphis needs you. It needs us. We're showing up for OUTMemphis as Together Rising. We are hoping that you all, members of Team Love, members who just are watching this video and don't know what's going on but want to learn a little bit more, check out OUTMemphis, check out their website, and join us in fighting this legislation and fighting oppression against young people. The deadline is June 30th. June 30th is our looming deadline. By that time, we would like to raise $150,000. If we could do $150,000 by Friday to help OUTMemphis provide gender affirming care for 15 people, that would be phenomenal. And that is our goal. So please consider donating at togetherrising.org/give. And please consider joining the Team Love community if you don't already consider yourself part of it at Together Rising. Support these and other issues that affect our bodies and our communities. Thank you so much, Molly, for being here, for talking with us about your work, for talking with us about OUTMemphis, for talking with us about these attacks on LGBTQIA+ people, and for giving us somewhere to take our grief and turn it into love.
Thank you so much for having me. I really am filled with gratitude for, the team of people coming together for this moment. Thank you so much.